Hello everyone, welcome to Clickheads. I'm Eddie the Chump, and today we're going to be tackling a big issue in the Valorant community, and that's the ranked experience. We'll be covering both solo queue and stacking, some Riot devs' perspectives on the issues inherent, and hopefully addressing some of the myths that surround it, like stacking being the much easier option. So let's begin with what inspired this, which is a post on Reddit comparing an average player's experience. Sochev posted about how difficult stacking is in a full 5 compared to when they solo queue, and that in their experience, the ranks don't really match up with the reality of the matches they find themselves in. Sochev was a plat player in solo, but found that golds and silvers in premades were way harder opponents when they themselves were stacking with friends, at least half of the time. The other half of their matches were stomps in their favour. That is not really ideal, as many of you will be able to see. So why does this happen? And is it true that stacking is in fact the opposite, a much easier way to gain rank, as most players seem to believe? Well, to answer this, we're going to need to break several issues down. But first, I want to show you guys a clip of Riot Morello talking about ranked in general, why there aren't separate queues for solos and teams, and the actual function demands it tries to answer.
I think philosophically, it's something I know the team previously who worked on rank was very stringent on. I think maintaining a competitive integrity around ranked has been the top goal, and as long as that remains the top goal, I don't think we'll have a lot of separations of queue. Ranked, I've always talked about this, ranked systems are a mess because people either want them to be a legitimate show of skill or a progression system, and they want to be able to play it their way. I don't think it can do all of those things, and so I think either it's just going to do them all badly, which I'm fine with, because that's what ranked systems always do. I don't have a counterexample ever. Or it needs to focus more on one, but it'll come at the cost of others.
So that's a really interesting take, and within that, I think are some good indications of why ranked modes generally struggle to be the be-all and end-all modes that people want them to be. Ranked modes, like the one Valorant uses, are too often pulled in too many directions at one time. Players want them to be an identifier of skill, and they can do that, particularly if we're just talking physical mechanics, like how good is your aim and your movement. To a certain extent, they can also measure game sense. You won't win many matches if you're all aim and no brain. However, it's here that I want to have the first of some rather frank conversations with you guys. Solo versus team play. Here's the thing, by having one queue and on the surface making solos play against teams, it's easy to see why players think playing in stacks is easier. A group of coordinated friends have a distinct advantage over a bunch of randoms. But that myth is incorrect. For a start, most solos are not actually playing against stacks a lot of the time. The game doesn't tell you when you are, which might be helpful and less confusing if it did, but the only way a lot of us know is by asking in all chat when we're getting owned. The fact that nobody wants to acknowledge is that for the vast majority of ranks, playing in a team is in fact much harder than solo. And this is because the matchmaker takes into account the fact that you're in a team and either puts you against other premades as a priority, which will be a harder match but fairer, or gives you better players to play against when they're solo. This is very common in most games. Overwatch did the same for years, just as one example. Now, you might have heard your favorite pro or streamer complain about playing versus stacks, and this is for a very good reason. The only place where stacking is legitimately easier is right at the top of the skill distribution. If you're Asu, who is Radiant, there is nowhere higher to draw the solos to play with you against a stack, so it will match you with players of your level either way. This is why the very top can be dominated by stacks of semi-pros. At the very highest levels, you're playing the top 0.001% anyway, and of course, when stacking, they do have the advantage. I want to make this very clear. This is not the case at virtually any other rank. We play at Diamond and Immortal, and the solos we play against when stacking are much better than when we solo or duo, and it can be such a challenge, we sometimes ask ourselves, what's the point? When Liam and myself duo queue at the same rank, it's like taking a holiday. This has a bad side effect, and that is the same ranks do not represent the same skill levels depending on whether you're solo or in a team. When we play other diamonds in a duo, it's easy mode. When we play diamonds in a stack, those players are clearly a different level of player. Nobody wants to hear this, but it's the truth. Some people argue a solo rank is the truest rank. That's what shows how good you actually are because you're more self-reliant in that context. But that's just untrue unless you're already at the very top. The Diamond 2s beaming me in the face in stack games are not the same as the Diamond 2s that int down mid of Ascent in my solo matches. This is what Sochev was experiencing. The fact that the same rank can cover such wildly different skill levels is part of what Morello is talking about when he discusses a ranked mode's flaws. I'll say another unpopular thing. Every solo queue player's rank is inflated. Yours, mine, everybody's except for the very top. It has to be because of the matchmaking calculations done to try and give you fair matches when playing stacks. Why would it have to give you harder solos to play against if it wasn't the case? Ask yourself that question. If the ranks were truly the same, why would it even need to do that in the first place? Well, that's because a solo Plat 3 is not actually a Plat 3 depending on how you measure skill. Players want to play team games on their own, which I totally understand. Not everybody has a bunch of people they can rely on, but the fact is, skill is not just mechanics. It's not just about you and your performance. You might have got 3 kills, but did your team win the round? No, then it doesn't really matter. That's how the game works at a team level. Here's another way you can tell the ranks aren't the same depending on the context. Why do the roles that Sochev talks about in his post occur? Why are the matches blowouts in either direction? It's because the system isn't 100% accurate. And why isn't it accurate? Because the ranks don't always represent the same skill level. That's why. It does try its best, and Riot have clearly made their intentions known. They don't believe in separating the queues out, and that's because I think they're kind of okay with stacks being at the top, and that does make sense to me. I'm currently Diamond 1. I've been up to Diamond 3 when playing in a group. Whenever I play solo or duo, it is legitimately a different world. It is so much easier. At Diamond in solo queue, just as an example, agent utility is nowhere near optimized. In a stack, it's very clear that players are making good decisions and proper reads. They're much further ahead on the actual fundamentals of how to play a game like Valorant. I think Riot are making the best of a bad situation. They know and understand that a ranked mode means many things to many different people. A badge of skill measurement, a progression system, and an accurate matchmaker. But they can't work miracles. On this channel, we're all a bit more hard-nosed about this than even Riot are. We played Overwatch for years, which had a distinct solo queue priority to its rank mode, and this meant there were legitimately players in GM and Top 500 who didn't actually know how to play the game. Not the solo queue pick your favorite hero and poke at the choke game, the actual game of Overwatch. You know, the one where you have to count utility and ults, watch rotations, and explode in coordinated pushes, not just hit some nice shots. It was so bad, people just gave up playing in stacks because it was too hard compared to solo or duo. But Blizzard actually banned stacks at a certain point, so how can that be true, Eddie? Well, where did they ban those stacks, you ask? Oh yeah, right at the very top, because that's the only context where it actually made it easier for you, and that's the same in Valorant. With Valorant Ranked, you have to pick your poison. Do you want it to be an accurate measure of skill, despite that term meaning completely different things in different contexts, or do you want it to be a more progressional-like mechanic? If you want it to be accurate to skill levels, then what you'd actually have to do is remove the calculation for team play advantage, and why is that? Because then solo Plat 3s wouldn't believe they were Plat 3 because they'd be gatekept by actual Plat 3 teams. They'd be forced to learn how to actually play, coordinate and improve at that level, or just accept a lower rank. But people don't actually want to do that most of the time. They want to be reassured and have their egos stroked, and I don't blame anyone for that. It is nice to have a shiny badge next to your name. But players do generally believe that stacks boost people to ranks they don't deserve. This is in fact the inverse of what's true. Unless you're at ASU's level, for the rest of us plebs, if we play solo, we're the ones that are actually boosted. The problem is, the skill sets required to be successful are not even really comparable. To be good at solo queue, you have to have a sense of how the game plays when everybody is essentially playing for themselves, or baiting as it's otherwise known. I am joking, but I'm also kind of not. Because your stats do matter up until a certain rank or number of matches, the game encourages you to play your own life more often than not. And if you play that way against teams, even at supposedly your own rank, you'll get absolutely destroyed. Good teams with good fundamentals don't give away easy cheap kills. They make you work for everything. Just as one example, I despair at the level of baiting at Diamond. It's like nobody knows what trading actually is, despite it being absolutely one of the first real things you need to learn. The amount of times in solo queue that the first player into a site dies without being traded for is ridiculous, and Diamond is not by any means a low rank. We even have friends in our stack who are immortal who struggle to grasp simple team play aspects like that from time to time. The reason being is, when you're playing solo, you're never confronted by what happens if you don't do those things in a serious way. Someone will overpeak on defense, they'll die without using their utility, they'll fight massed utility instead of playing for retake. The list is almost endless. I'll explain the difference between teams and solos this way. Solo is about making the least mistakes yourself, and team play is about making the most actual plays work. I do know a lot of players disagree with us on this. It is not a popular thing to say. We're all worse than we think, but it is the truth. So what's the answer? Well, as far as I can tell, those that want a genuine solo queue are going to be disappointed. Riot believe in competitive integrity. They want their ranked mode to be hard, so having two separate ranks for solo and teams is probably never going to happen. They are also unlikely to stop giving stacks harder players to play against, because a lot of the player base would lose their minds if they did. What I hope for is a tournament mode. Riot have made positive noises regarding this in the past, and I really hope it happens. Playing ranked in a stack is fine, it's difficult but fine, we do still manage to enjoy ourselves, but I would relish a tournament mode with prizes that we could compete in regularly. We wouldn't win, we're not that good, but it would be nice to see how we actually measure up. And in what seems to be a common occurrence at the moment, I know this video will be a bit divisive, and despite how we come across sometimes, we don't think we know everything, so please do give your feedback as passionately as you like, just don't be that guy, you know what I mean, nobody likes that guy. And that's about it for today. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you like the content on this channel, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you get notified when we upload. Also, please check out our Facebook stream. We're no lifing Valorant over there, and it would be great to see some of you in the chat. Until next time.